for that. Otherwise, you're just holding off huge blocks of time, and then they're saying, "Oh, sorry, we're not making the movie," which has happened.
Yeah.
While you're working on one project, you're getting ready for the next one too. That's a little mind trip, because you got to be totally present where you are in the movie you're making, but also be thinking about the movie you're getting ready to make, and you can't get the two mixed up in your mind, but you have to be ready for the next one.
As I say, you mentioned earlier being an Amish farmer, and then you tell me about being this horrible clown, and I'm just trying to imagine how much mindset change it has to be in your. I mean, you obviously don't walk from one to the next, but even it's got to take a course of time to get your mind right around that. I just can't imagine just trying to flip a switch and doing it.
It helps to be a little bit crazy. All actors have got to be a little bit messed up, I think, and musicians too. I think musicians are all messed up too. You got to be able to say, okay, now I'm doing this and nothing but this, and everything else goes away. Which is why our family lives are usually so bad. Entertainers, performers, musicians, all sorts of creative people, because your wife, your husband, whatever, it's like, why are you not present? Why are you not with me? I'm doing my stuff. I'm working on my music. I'm learning my lines. I'm doing this. So even when you're with somebody, you're not always present. You got to force yourself to shut it down. And I know that in my business, that's why a lot of marriages go bad, because it's an all-consuming business.
It is. Really, I can imagine it would be, because you have to be so, learning lines and writing a character and all that stuff.
I talked to a writer last night, and he said, I'm really, really, really having problems with my girlfriend, because he's trying to write a script, and he works at home, and she's at home. And she says, even when I'm with you, you're not here. And she's absolutely right. He's only there in body. His mind is in this world he's created.
Yeah, and it'd be hard. There's no differential then, because like when you're on the set, you're on the set, and then you can go home, and that wall is different, and you can evolve around that. But if you're working from home, I can't imagine trying to break, because there's no barrier to break, so to speak. So it would be tough to be a writer or somebody out there trying to deliver that different world. I mean, delivering it from your point would be tough, but being the guy that puts the pen to create all the lighting and the scenes, I love writers, I love actors, I love musicians. It's just that creative juice they all have that makes me wonder why I just talk for an hour every week.
I wonder why we do it sometime. I wonder, like at 3 a.m. last night when I'm, branding this witch, everybody's tired, everybody's dog tired, really exhausted, but everybody's really happy. And I'm thinking, are we crazy? Are we insane? Why are we doing this? You have those thoughts. But we're doing it because we love it, and passion covers a multitude of sins, I guess.
Yeah, it's sure helpful, because if you didn't love it, you want to be doing it. So makes things easier when you enjoy doing it.
I want to ask you.
Go ahead.
Because your show deals with the paranormal. And it's maybe an obvious question, but I haven't talked to you before, and I'd like to know, do you believe in ghosts? And if so, what do you think they are? And I ask this because my hometown is known as one of the most haunted places in America, in Georgetown, South Carolina. So I grew up with this stuff, but I'd like to know what your take is on it.
I do believe in ghosts, but I'm not exactly sure what they are. I'm not even sure. I just don't know. I think there's some interdimension connection. I'm not sure if they're even human spirits at this point. I want to believe they are human spirits, but on the other hand, I'm just not quite sure. At one point, I would have told you, yes, they're all human spirits, but then the more I realized that we're not alone in the galaxy, there's some more intelligent things than us somewhere out there. So are they messing with us? Or are we messing with ourselves, just trying to believe that Grandma's around? Does that answer your question or not at all? I don't know. Probably doesn't. Probably makes you want to ask more questions, which is fine.
Which is, that's just the best kind of answer. What do you mean when you say you think we're messing with ourselves?
Well, I you know how sometimes when a loved one passes and you want to believe they're still around you?
Yes.
Yes. So that connection you don't want to let go of them.
Yes.
So we take any little small coincidence possibly that, hey, they're still here, they're still loving us. I don't know. On some hand, I think that's just, like the whole, and of course it all comes back to religion and that whole belief system, and there's so many different layers once you start peeling the onion, so to speak. It's just, I don't know. The more I think about it, the more I go, oh, I'm going to make my head explode someday.
I know that the fear of, well, I mean, what Shakespeare said, the fear of something that comes after death, the undiscovered moon, from whose, the undiscovered country from whose moon no traveler returns, makes us bear the ills we have, then rather than flee to those we know not of. Conscience makes cowards of us all. It's universal and it's timeless, this fear of what comes next. Do you think that we're able to actually, our anxiety can create manifestations, physical manifestations?
It's possible. I mean, there are conditions that people, black out and not remember things for a period of time, like people sleepwalk and stuff, so it's possible to have altered states. So that's why I like doing it, because I get little fragments from people, and it kind of adds to my puzzle. Of course, I don't have the picture yet.
That's good. We should probably never have the picture. We wouldn't know what to do with it.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. Even if we had the picture, what would we do with it? We'd be like, that's not right.
We try to package it and make money off of it, and then it would suck.
Yeah. And then you'd make the film about it.
We'd make a bad film about it, and I'd be in it. I know that sleep deprivation, that when you reach the final stages of sleep deprivation, I read, Michael Jackson didn't have any REM sleep. They said he's the person who went the longest without REM sleep before he died. Because that propofol that he was taking, it makes you feel rested, but you've never entered deep sleep. And when you enter those last stages of being sleep deprived, you start to see things and have hallucinations, which he did. He said that he was seeing things and people, and that people were talking to him, and they weren't even in the room. And so I wonder if it's possible. We know that humans can do that under extreme anxiety. What else can we? I mean, what do you think about, like, astral projection and being able to have such intense energy that we can make an object move? Do you think any of that is ever possible?
I think there's got to be some level, because there's an unconscious communication that people, telepathy, people transferring messages back and forth, and the twins knowing what's going on with the other one, even though they're not in the room. So there's there's something, but boy, it's just there's so many little things that just don't make sense. But then you start questioning them, and you open that can of worms, so to speak, and you start digging, and it's just. So I think. So
what about right now? Is there some energy being exchanged between us, or are these just words?
I think there's energy that goes into everything. Like every time you put a film out there, there's an energy that you put into it, and it comes out of you. So
there's a story in the New Testament where Jesus is surrounded by all of these people, and like literally, it's called in the press. But he's in the press, and they're pressing against him and. Going against the road, and this one lone woman comes up, and she reaches down and she touches the bottom of his robe, and he stops and he says, "Who touched me?" And I said, "What are you talking about? You're in the press. There's hundreds of people around you." And he says, "No, someone touched me. I felt virtue leave me." And that's the King James. And then the other, when you get down to the original translation, it's something like energy. I felt power leave me. Even power is not really it. It's closer to energy, what they would have understood in their language. I felt something vital leave me because this person touched me. And that's always fascinated me, that there could be an exchange of energy between people.
Well, there are people that do Reiki healing, where they transfer energy from them to you, and it makes things feel. I mean, I've had somebody do it on my shoulder, and I was very skeptical of this whole process. They weren't even in the same state, but I was talking to there was an intermediate between me and this person, because they couldn't do it while they were on the phone. So I said, okay. And sure enough, my shoulder loosened up and felt better. Now, is that coincidence, or is that energy being transferred from person to person?
Wow.
So
it's very, very interesting. Carl Sagan wrote a book called The Demon Haunted World. And Sagan believed that everything that we believe is supernatural was a coincidence. I have great respect for Sagan, although I just agree with him on that point. But it was fascinating. He talked about this, about we think, oh, that couldn't happen. There couldn't be this coincidence that somebody was saying they were going to help Jim's shoulder, and then Jim's shoulder felt good. There's no way that could happen. But Sagan says there is that way that could happen, because the universe is either finite or infinite. And if the universe is finite, it has an edge. And if it's infinite, it goes on forever and ever, and all things happen within an infinite universe. All possibilities must exist within the infinite universe. That blew my mind when I was 16, Jim.
It still blows my mind today. You know, I had a guest tell me one time, you got to remember, at one time, not too long ago, the world was flat.
The world was what?
The world was flat.
What does that mean?
The people thought you could sail off the edge of the Earth.
Okay, they thought it was, yes.
Yeah, so now we've realized the Earth is round. You know, this was only a couple hundred years ago people were thinking this way.
Yes.
So just imagine, progress another couple hundred years, what they'll be laughing at that we thought.
You know, we love to laugh at previous generations, don't we?
Yeah.
Those people with their stupid hair and their stupid beliefs are going to be us.
That's right.
Do you wish you could live, if you could live, well, let's not say forever, but if you could live 500 years, would you?
That's a scary question because, you know, it's not, having a family and all, you kind of know that generation, you know, you'd be alone at some point, even though that you'd have generations around you that may respect you, but, you know, to be alone, to have seen, I mean, I don't think so. I think I would rather just live out my course and go off into the proverbial sunset, wherever it may be.
That's pretty stunning that you'd say that because, like, that's the great human desire is for immortality, and you're just saying no.
Well, there you have it. Shocking news here. No, I don't desire, you know, what's the gain? Okay, so I see the iPhone 500. Or whatever it'll be at that point.
Yeah, what do we think we're going to gain by living forever? I mean, we don't want to die, but what do we think we're going to gain? Because once you've lived long enough, you've experienced variations of most things.
Yeah.
Which is why really old people, they get to the point of I don't want any new things.
Well, I mean, there's that mental, like, physical condition aspect you have to take into account, too. If body progresses at the same rate it's progressing now, when I'm 500, I'll be, like, in bed all the time.
Yeah.
So if it's not living, what's the point of living?
That's the vampire myth. That's the great lure of the vampire myth. The vampire gets to live forever, but, so there's always a but. He's cursed. He's damned. And his life is miserable, but he gets to live forever.
And it's not like if you could live forever, you're going to become this Oscar-winning machine.
And if you did become an Oscar-winning machine, wouldn't it get old after 300 years?
Yes. Well, funny you mentioned it because I had Jim DeFelice on, New York Times bestseller, and he says, it was nice. I enjoyed the first one for about a day and a half, but that project was so far removed from when he put the pen to the paper. He didn't do that, but he said it didn't really matter because he had this book that was on a deadline. He couldn't, enjoy it. And he said, now that's happened a few times. Yeah, I stopped and enjoy it for a little bit, but there's always the next deadline. And I was just dumbfounded when he said it. I'm like, dude, you know how many people would give their left arm for that right now?
They said it reminds me of Katharine Hepburn using her Oscar for a doorstep. Yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, I guess ultimately they are just things, and even though we live a long time and we get everything we want, we humans are just never satisfied, are we?
I don't think so.
I mean, I know for myself that, okay, I wanted to be an actor. All right, I became an actor. I want to make a living as an actor. I became making a living as an actor. I wanted to be a well-known stage actor, and I became a somewhat well-known touring stage actor. Then I wanted to get into film, and it's like, okay, I really want to get to be a working actor in film, so I became a working actor in film. I want to do a lot of movies. Okay, now I've done 100. But it's always, the goalposts always get moved, right? Yeah.
That's what somebody told me, because I have this big grand mission statement that I want to get 1,000 downloads, or 1 million downloads in a year. Sounds great. And they said, the next morning when you wake up, you're going to want 2 million the next year. It doesn't matter.
Wow.
And it's like,
so then what should we do?
Enjoy it while we can. I don't know how else to put it, but we just smile and take everything and be happy with it. Because it is what we want.
It's that great line from the movie Year of Living Dangerously that Linda Hunt had. What then must we do? What do we do? So we just try to enjoy our life? But, Jim, everything in our culture tells us not to do that. It tells us that we have to achieve and acquire in order to enjoy our life.
Okay, so what would you acquire that would make you more happy than you are today?
Hell if I know.
$1 million house?
No.
Maserati.
No, who cleaned the windows?
You don't need just have